What's up, guys? Welcome back to Newswave. So yesterday, there was a story that was making the rounds that many of you sent me that appeared to show images of the Switch 2. But this goes back to a filing from Nintendo that I did find, and I figured we'd go over exactly what it says here today. Also, we are going to be talking about that Analogue N64 once again, as we have some new details around what it'll be capable of, and maybe even some hints at the price point. And we may also have the new worst game of the year that's happened to beat out Gollum for that crown, which means you're gonna have to see this one. Guys, if you enjoy these videos, make sure you hit that like button, helps out a ton. And if new here to the SpawnWave channel, make sure you subscribe down below. And we're gonna start today with Xbox Game Pass games for the month of October. There were some hopes that maybe some Activision Blizzard games would be in here, but we have some information from Phil Spencer we'll talk about later on in the show. But for now, let's head over here to news.xbox.com, and we can start at the top. Like a Dragon Ishin Cloud Console and PC, that's available right now. I recommend checking it out. It's definitely a very unique game, and people will wonder, do I have to play the other Like a Dragon games or Yakuza games? No, you can just jump right into this one and you'll be fine. So I recommend checking it out. Then if we move up to October 19th, F1 Manager 2023 Cloud Console and PC. October 24th, City Skylines 2, that's on PC. Then on October 26th, we have Dead Space. Now that is part of EA Play, but of course attached to Game Pass Ultimate, Cloud, PC, and Xbox Series X and S. We also have Frog Detective, The Entire Mystery, that's Cloud and Console. Minako's Night Market, Cloud, Console, and PC. October 31st, we have Headbangers Rhythm Royale, Cloud, Console, and PC. And Jusant, that's Cloud, Console, and PC. It's worth mentioning that on October 31st, games that will be leaving, it does include Persona 5 Royal, so you might want to get started now because that game takes more than 100 hours to beat, so you're gonna be cutting it close starting now. But otherwise, a pretty good month, and definitely check out Like a Dragon Ishin. It is again, a very unique title and one worth checking. Also, we had an interesting crossover announced that I actually think is a really good idea for this franchise, and that's Alan Wake meets Fortnite. This is a trailer that was released over on the Fortnite account, and this is called Alan Wake Flashback. The idea here is within Fortnite is basically a catch-up for anyone who has seen maybe Alan Wake 2 out there, different trailers, and rather than play through, I guess, Alan Wake Remastered, maybe you're really into Fortnite, and here you go, you can relive the experiences and the story that's been put out so far in the Alan Wake franchise, and I think this is good exposure just overall for Alan Wake. While I know there are Alan Wake fans out there, we all understand it's not this massive mainstream series at this time, but Alan Wake 2 looks legitimately good. A crossover like this with Fortnite, 10 days out from when it releases, I think is an awesome idea. So hey, if you've been curious about Alan Wake and you're really into Fortnite, you can check it out. Oh, and I like making you guys feel old, and I figured we would do that right now because Bully is 17 years old. That's right, the Video Game Awards account reminded me of this yesterday, so I figured I'd pass it along to all of you. It's, wow, 17 years ago, and we still don't have another one. I don't get, although, I mean, think about it this way. It's been a while since just the last Grand Theft Auto game came out, and you figured that franchise was printing money for Rockstar back then, and we're still waiting for Grand Theft Auto 6, despite Grand Theft Auto 5 coming out on the Xbox 360 and the PS3. But I think a new Bully would be really interesting now, especially since the last one was on the PS2. We've had quite a few technological advancements since then, so I think a new one could look really, really cool, and they could do some interesting things with it. So here's hoping. Rockstar and Take-Two haven't given up on it, but they're not exactly showing many signs of them being interested in reviving it. And guys, with some of the quick news out of the way, let's get into the bigger stuff. Let's start right away with this Switch 2 and apparently drawings that were making the rounds, and I was trying to track down exactly where this came from, and to my understanding, everyone was basically sourcing Game Rant, and we can see their post here where they say newly published Nintendo patent appears to show the Switch 2. A new Nintendo patent appears to show drawings of the Switch 2, highlighting some pretty big differences when compared to its 2017 predecessor. So I'm going through this article and I was running into an issue. They weren't exactly linking back to the patent that they were referencing, which makes it kind of hard to double check kind of their findings or the conclusion from that patent. So I had to search for what felt like way too long to find it, but I was able to. And we can see the patent here, portable game device. It had its publication date on the 12th of October, so just 5 or 6 days ago. It's pretty recent in terms of being made public. The filing date was November 11th, 2022, so just under a year ago. This was public or filed, and again, we just found out about it pretty recently through the publishing. And the biggest thing that caught people's eyes was the drawings themselves. It looks like a very basic system, and it's not exactly the most exciting thing to see if you do believe that this is the Switch 2. This is the direction Nintendo's going in. However, if we dig a little deeper on this one, it seems that we may be overshooting this one a bit. Now, when you see a patent, typically for something like this, it's going to be something that Nintendo isn't necessarily doing. Like, they're not pursuing this any longer, and that's why we have it available to us. For example, if there are different things filed with like FCC and stuff, there will be confidentiality agreements in place for temporary blocking of requesting documents and viewing drawings and stuff. In this case, it's just put out there, but the reason the drawing looks so basic is because this isn't Nintendo doing anything for the console itself or the system with how it looks. This is actually just all functional, because if you go to the summary of the invention, it says to make the portable gaming device more compact or to increase the area of the display, there is room to improve the button placement of the portable gaming device. In view of foregoing, it is an object of the present disclosure, improve button placement in a portable gaming device. This is where machine translation meets the very, very redundant nature of explaining patents in this kind of language. But the means for solving the problem, the subject matter of present disclosure is as follows, and they essentially go over the idea of moving a lot of buttons to the top and the bottom, including, by the way, they've decided to move the speakers to the bottom. The idea here is to, from what I can see, free up the front so that the screen can take up more real estate. That's right, the patent that a lot of people were going over and looking at and trying to figure out if that is the Switch 2 had nothing to do with the form factor, just where they can place the buttons on very basic rectangular drawing that they made. Because, I mean, if we all figure the next system, the Switch 2, probably going to be within the realm of the shape of what we have with the current Switch, rectangle, tablet-like. So as long as it's that same idea and the buttons are placed where they want, it'll all kind of line up in the end. I don't think the speakers going on the bottom is a great idea, though, and there's a good chance Nintendo realized that, and it's one of the reasons we're looking at this patent now publicly. But the other thing I will say that's interesting about this, because while patents being very specific isn't necessarily what we are going to see in the long run, there are times ideas hidden in there that might at least tip their hand going forward. One of those has to do with them describing the connection to the display as wired or wireless. I don't think the next system is going to do so wirelessly. I think it'll still retain the same general idea of using a dock, but maybe the generation following, maybe a mid-gen refresh, they could go, hey, you know what? You don't need the dock anymore. We figured it out. Technology's there. It's just all wireless to your TV. And oh yeah, that also means we can enable our 2-screen setup, because they want to take it back to the days of the DS or the Wii U all over again. But yeah, not much really to go on with this patent other than Nintendo trying to rearrange buttons and apparently speakers, maybe to get a larger, 8-inch screen on there. Next up, let's talk about that Nintendo 64 system from Analogue, of course called the Analogue 3D, that got people very, very excited online when it was announced, only to realize that there'll be like 10 of them made, it'll be sold out immediately. But at least the idea is kind of cool to see a company attempt an FPGA N64 that will be capable of 4K. Well, we got much more information here. This from Christopher Tabor in an interview with Paste Magazine, and he had a couple of choice words thrown in there, as well as apparently all kinds of information as to what the system would be capable of, and maybe a little bit of a hint at the price point. Anyway, we can see this posted up over on Paste where they say, reimagining the N64 with 100% compatibility and accuracy, and what I know is necessary for it to be just like the experience we all had when we first played it in the context it was created for, CRTs namely, is not something anyone has achieved. Not even close to. This, according to Tabor. Tabor suggests that Nintendo can't do much better with this and other problematic N64 software on emulation front, even if Nintendo made an N64 classic in line with its previous mega popular NES and SNES classic systems. The nature of how N64 software emulation functions with even the most powerful components, it isn't possible. It will inevitably result in a subpar experience. He really compared and put over this Analogue 3D to being an orchestra, right? Just to make it all work together. And if you don't buy this, you might as well buy an N64 with a CRT, and that's it. It's what a CEO like this is supposed to do, right? Just really put over their system as the greatest thing ever. But also, some pretty big promises here. 100% compatibility, also going on to say things like system level visual effects, they can be disabled on a menu level if users would like. Like the N64's anti-aliasing stuff, that it does some weird stuff to the image. We know this at this time, but the N64's optional 4 megabytes of RAM, the expansion pack, it's built into the Analogue 3D, enabled by default. However, you can disable the expansion pack if you would like, as some games will automatically detect that it's there, enable certain features and stuff, and maybe you want to see how it ran with just the jumper pack in there. Now, they do say it will run N64 games at their native speeds, which means games like GoldenEye will experience slow down with frame rate, especially with 4-player split screen remote mines everywhere. We're hitting 2 frames per second. However, they do say that there will be optional toggles that will enable overclocking, running smoother, eliminating native frame dips, and other performance-specific tweaks. So this system sounds really good based on everything they're describing here, but I gotta see this thing running. I gotta see the quality of the images that it's putting out. Again, it sounds good. I just need to see it functioning and all this. But the other interesting thing came down to the price point. And according to Christopher Tabor, it's going to be in line with their other products. So I'm still thinking this is $300, $400. I'm thinking like $400 for this one. I think there will be some initial sticker shock for people, but if they show off a product that is like good, the quality, the images that it's putting out, the games, and I think they'll have something here, and yeah, it'll probably be sold out in 5 minutes and then twice the price on eBay, but we'll see whenever they're ready to actually show the product off and tell us the price point and release date heading into 2024. Next up, let's talk about what is currently dubbed the worst game of 2023, and it appears that GameMill and Iguanabee let Gollum completely off the hook when they decided to make a King Kong game, and there are clips like flying all over the internet for this one. For example, this was shared on Twitter by Rick, just saying the game's a complete scam. And some of the cutscenes, it's one of those situations where it's so bad it's good. Like it's pretty bad, but it's a $40 game, and it's funny to think because back when the Xbox 360 released, we had that Peter Jackson King Kong game, and it looks so much better than this. Even that isn't considered a good game necessarily. I mean, this is just bad. But if you consider guys, it's GameMill. We've talked about GameMill a number of times, but then to compound on top of that, it's Iguanabee, and they made that G.I. Joe game that was also really bad. So I guess I have to warn people, whenever you see GameMill, immediately assume it's going to be this kind of situation and allow them to surprise you if it ends up being good. I think RGT has to play this, doesn't he? Oh, he's going to have a lot of fun with this one. Hey, maybe he can make it that situation of where it's so bad it's good for his video, because this looks like it's going to be a struggle to play through. And in our last bit of news, let's talk a bit about Xbox Game Pass and Activision Blizzard. Now that the deal is done and Microsoft owns Activision Blizzard, people were hoping that maybe there'd be a surprise drop of different games into Game Pass. I mean, as soon as yesterday with their announcement of some of the titles heading into the service to close out October. Fortunately, that did not happen, and Phil Spencer was very upfront during the official Xbox podcast. We can see this posted up over on Pure Xbox with the transcription. Again, Phil Spencer on the podcast saying, when we finished the Bethesda acquisition, there was this great moment where we were able to put a bunch of the back catalog games on Game Pass and celebrate their history. The truth of the matter is, with Activision Blizzard King, the regulatory process took so long that we weren't able to get in and work on that back catalog work. The Activision Twitter handle put out something that talked about 2024, and I think that's accurate. I would love it if there was some kind of secret celebration drop that's coming in the next couple of weeks, but there's not. And that is kind of unfortunate, as even mentions a bit of a downer, specifically for the holiday season. I mean, come on, if you could show up in November, even right at the end of November, going into December, and say, all of these legacy Call of Duty games that people were very excited to see come back up with the servers working again, they're all on Game Pass now, like Black Ops, Black Ops 2, Modern Warfare 2, Modern Warfare 3, the list goes on, and they're just in Game Pass. There'd be a lot of excitement around there, and it would probably spike Xbox console sales, as we saw, I believe Modern Warfare 2 find its way back into the MPD sales charts when it became like backwards compatible with the idea of the servers functioning and everything. It is impressive stuff just to see kind of the effect those older Call of Duty games can still have on the marketplace. But then you look at all the other Activision Blizzard games that could just start dropping in. If they could have got Diablo 4 on Game Pass in time for the holidays, that probably would have been a really big deal for them. And I do wonder what they could do with the PC side, something like World of Warcraft. Well, I don't think they're going to necessarily roll the World of Warcraft subscription fee into Game Pass. They can still do a lot of fun crossover and things that just benefit you if you're a subscriber on the PC side, whether it's mounts or currency or other things there. So unfortunately, just because the entire regulatory process took so long, they probably won't have anything meaningful ready to go for the holiday with Activision Blizzard in Game Pass, and we'll have to look to the start of 2024 for hopefully some pretty fun drops. And I still think it's worth going back to like the older catalog of games for backwards compatibility and start picking some of those titles, and maybe even picking up the phone and checking in with Hasbro for Transformers, or maybe with Disney on some of those older Spider-Man games. Just an idea. And before we go to the comment of the day, we're taking a look at the poll that I posted up yesterday, where I ask, which of these games in November are you most excited for? Super Mario RPG, 59%. I figured that is kind of the most notable one, technically, on the list. But still, I wanted to see how everything else would work out. Wow, RoboCop Rogue City, 15%. You know, after playing the demo, I am intrigued by that game. I'm definitely picking it up. I don't know about the PC version because there's just stutter in that game. I don't know what the deal is. Even playing on like a 3080 Ti or going back to a 2070 Super, it's the stutters same both cards. Very odd. Like a Dragon, Man Who Erased His Name up there with 11%. Star Ocean at 8%, Persona 5 Tactics at 7%. We got to bump the numbers up for Star Ocean Second Story R, okay? The demo's out there. I recommend people check it out. It's really, really fun. I feel like the art style and graphical style they have is very unique and interesting to look at. And then the game itself is, I mean, it's a remake of a classic game from the original PlayStation. But either way, yes, Super Mario RPG makes sense. That would lead the way. And RoboCop, curious how that one turns out. And we'll finish up with the comment of the day, as you're seeing here. This is from VO Channel, who says, hey John, show Halo some love soon with the new season coming up. Yeah, so season 5 is out now. I fired up the game, and I'd check in with Halo every week or so, just log in, see what's going on, and play a few matches and log out. I will admit, it's come a long way. Just Halo Infinite in general, it is free to play, so if you have an Xbox, you can just download, you don't need an Xbox Live, it's free to play. So you can just download it and try it out on PC the same way, right? Season 5 is actually pretty good. The Battle Pass, I know, it's Battle Pass, sure, but like the cosmetics, everything is leaning into the Flood. Firefight's pretty cool. Some of the new maps are good. And they have an entire playlist that's all about user-made content and maps. And yes, people like to remake a lot of the classic stuff. So I think now is a great time to jump back into Halo Infinite, especially if you're there at launch and kind of just said, nah, I'm good after the lack of content. Now, there's actually quite a bit to do. And ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it here for Newswave. If you enjoyed this video, guys, hit that like button. If not, hit the dislike. Leave comments down below about everything we talked about here today, whether it's these drawings for the Switch 2 that's mostly just about them rearranging the buttons? Do you think Nintendo will work to have maybe an edge-to-edge display for the main unit, maybe wireless connection to the monitor? I guess there's at least a lot of possibilities coming out from that. And then also, what about the Analogue 3D? Some big promises being made here. Do you think they'll be able to deliver next year? Thanks guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.